It's like, just calm down, folks. Just calm down.
That calm down, folks. That calm down clip will always make me laugh. I can watch it 20,000 times.
Yeah,
and I'll laugh
that was one of my better moments, I guess, for last year's playoffs. It's so funny to watch that, Carson, because we were at that time doing the post game wrap ups in my office at the radio station that I worked at, and we were all kind of huddled and around the camera in my office doing that. And now, thanks to StreamYard and the Refocused Radio Network and everything, we've got this whole thing, and you're able to do the graphics. You're able to do that incredible intro, and we look like, if you take a look at what we did last year compared to what we're doing now.
Well, we were watching at the time. We were watching the games at the studio every day, just about. Probably 5-6 days of the week we were at the studio watching the games.
Yeah,
well, it was just Saturdays that we'd be at your house.
Yeah,
it was only Saturdays.
As long as I was working, because I work evenings, like we would say, and we would watch the games at the office. But now this setup is so great, and Carson, you've done just an amazing job.
Thank you.
With our graphics. So, very interesting night of hockey. Another
two different games, we'll say.
Totally different games.
I'm surprised you're smiling this much right now.
Well, it's, if you would have, okay, let's just put it this way: the Oilers lost to Vegas, and we'll tell you how they lost to Vegas in Game 3 in Edmonton.
They got beat 9-0.
They got beat 4-3, but it was literally.
We'll get into that probably in a few minutes.
Yeah, a last second goal, but we'll get into it. But there used to be a time when I was so, I'm passionate about the game, as Carson is, and if the Oilers were to lose, I would be upset, and there's no consoling me, and I'd be ticked off and everything. But now it's like, you look at it going, it was a great hockey game, two great teams going at it. We kind of both thought Vegas was going to win this game, although I thought it wasn't going to go the way it did. But no, you've got to just look at it and go, okay, Oilers are still up there.
And it was a good game. Like, it really was.
It was a really great game. So, we'll get into the Oilers and Knights game here in a minute, but I want to start by saying you can get the Best Boys 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs wrap-up shows on YouTube. Now, last night's show and tonight's show, I'm going to post
tomorrow when you're at work.
When I'm at work, and it should be on our YouTube channel via the Refocused Radio Network, and on there, Sweep the League with Rudy Campos Jr. He's got all of his stuff on there. So does Shemaya Reed and the I Am Refocused Radio Network. You'll get us on Spreaker as well. Everything will be probably uploaded, because Shemaya uploads everything onto the network. So it'll probably be done Monday, but you can always go and look on Facebook, because we have it on Facebook. Or if you do have, the Best Boy Center Ice podcast YouTube channel, if you're a subscriber, you can get it there. If you're not, you should be a subscriber, because
yes, you should.
It's a great channel, and it's got a lot of great content. And you're talking to two guys who love the game of hockey, and one guy who's below me in the screen right there, who's, like I keep saying, he's the best hockey analyst I've seen, whether it's ESPN.
High remarks.
And I've been watching and listening to this game since literally, I don't remember doing anything. The first thing I remember is watching a hockey game on CBC on Hockey Night in Canada. So as this guy below me, he's a fantastic analyst. So let's start analyzing the first game.
Let's do it.
The Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. This game was no contest. Honestly, I might say I didn't honestly get to watch this game, because my girlfriend and I, Beth, were out doing a bunch of errands, and I was keeping a track on it on the phone, but I didn't get to see the game. But 4-0 Carolina, and I think
that didn't surprise me one bit.
I think we both kind of said, even though Washington, top seed in the East, got by in their first round, relatively easy. But we didn't think that they had the mustard to beat Carolina. And if today's game was any indication, Washington's in trouble. And I just couldn't, like, by the looks of the game, they gave up 2 power play goals. Again, more power play goals being given up. Carolina gets a 1-0 lead about at 12:34 into the second period. So no scoring in the first. So, that's pretty good if you're looking at it from the Washington Capitals. But then they give up 2 in the second at 12:34, and then one of those late goals with just a little over a minute left in the second. And then you get into the third period, an earlier goal in the third period by Eric Robinson, his first of the playoffs at 3:14, and then another power play goal by Jackson Blake at 16:44 to wrap things up. 4-0 was the final score in this game. So let's see, a 21
saves shutout for Frederik Andersen.
Frederik Andersen, he made 21 saves and got I think it's his first shutout with Carolina in the playoffs. But I think he's had
3. Toronto. Maybe Toronto and Anaheim. He was in Anaheim too.
Yeah, so he had 3 others, I think I saw, but I saw this was his first with Carolina, so good for him. And Carolina now leads this series 2-1, and Washington's in trouble, Car. And you've got the charts up there to explain how everything went.
Yes, they are. So, I picked Washington to win this series. Simply just because of the fact I felt like Ovi was playing really well last series. I feel like as a team, Washington was looking really good as far as just generating offense, being kind of a hard team to play against. And not to knock on them because Carolina's a really good team, but it seems like they've ran out of gas a little bit in this series.
Mm-hmm.
They've only scored 3 goals or 4 goals this whole series now. 4 goals in 3 games they've scored. It seems like they just ran out of gas and they just don't know how to break through the Carolina defense, which I've notoriously said so many times is such a tough defense because they swarm you the minute you touch the puck, and it's hard to get much anything going against them unless you have a power play that's able to break through the penalty kill. It is very hard to break through Carolina's structure on the defense. But you look at Washington's chances, they had 21 shots. Look at how close they are to the net. All these shots. There's only about 6. There's 6 shots are behind the dots, and the rest of them are either between the dots or right in front of the net. So they're getting good opportunities, but they're not able to score, and that's going to be a problem. You have to score goals to win hockey games. That's the literal definition. You have to score more goals than the other team, and they're not scoring more goals than the other team, and that's going to be an issue. And I really think Game 4, you have to win that one. You can't go back home down 3-1 because Carolina's building is a tough one to play in already.
Mm-hmm.
That is hard to play in Raleigh. It is not easy. And you're behind the 8 ball. If you're down 3-1, even if they lose or if they win in Washington, they're going back to Raleigh again.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place to be. So you'd rather just get the monkey off the back and win Game 4 and go back home where you can take the lead. You look here for Carolina, 28 shots, so they own the shot board tonight. More of a spread out offensive structure for them. They had some shots mainly from the right side of the point, which is very interesting. You only have one really on the left side. But again, much like a lot of these, since we've been doing these graphics, which by the way I put in our title page, but these stats, everything are powered with TSN.
Mm-hmm.
Use TSN because I like that they have the breakdown of like the shot board as well as just a summary of penalties, scoring summaries.
If you're not familiar with TSN, our American listeners, that's the Canadian equivalent of ESPN. So I like that's what that is.
Yeah, and I love the way that's outlined because you can see the scoreboard clearly and makes it a lot easier as a viewing experience. But you look at Carolina, so 28 shots, they have 4 goals. You look right away, this first one you see, Jackson Blake's power play goal. Right there. Look at he's right on the net. So that's not the best thing if you're a Washington Capital fan to see that. And then you have Svechnikov's opening goal of the game. Pretty decent area of the ice to be in to score a goal. That's a primary scoring opportunity area. And then Robinson's goal, same thing in the faceoff dot. Another pretty common area where a lot of goals do come from, or a lot of offensive chances come from. And lastly, Roslovic's goal. So I think we're both pretty on the same page. I didn't really watch this game either, but I can kind of visualize what probably happened by looking at this. Yeah, Washington's got to clean that up. They got to they got to break through. And if you're Carolina, keep playing the way you are, because they're frustrating the Capitals where they can't really get much anything going offensively. Game 4 of this series should be on Monday night in Raleigh again.
Yep.
We'll see what happens, what both these teams look like, but this is a must-win game for Washington, and I think Carolina wins this game. I think it's just going to be really hard for the Capitals to come back. I mean,
Yep.
they're a number 1 seed, so you can never count them out for sure, but that is not going to be easy. That is going to be very hard to win 3 straight games against the Canes if you have to.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough one. And excuse me, if Carolina comes up and wins Monday night,
It's not going to be easy.
I don't see Washington coming back down 3-1. So that'll be Monday. That'll be the earlier game on Monday. Now to the game after the nightcap, the Edmonton Oilers at home to the Golden Knights. I always want to call them the Golden State Knights. I don't know why, but it's the Golden Knights and the Oilers got off to a banging start. Crowd was into it. It was loud. They were proud in Edmonton. And Corey Perry, you call him Scory Perry, he got things going for the Oilers at the 7:19 mark with his 4th of the playoffs from McDavid and Draisaitl. And then at 11:12, just a few minutes later, he gets his 5th on the power play. So the Oilers finally break through on the power play. It's their first power play goal of this series. I think only their 4th power play goal of the playoffs. But Corey Perry gets his 5th. I think he's the 3rd oldest player in the NHL to get 2 goals in the period, or something like that. He's gonna be 40 in like 6 days. All right, so the Oilers they're in front 2-0. It's unfamiliar territory for the Oilers, and then they we want to say Calvin Pickard didn't play tonight. It was Stu Skinner because Cal got hurt late in that game.
I think it was that little incident where he almost kind of got laid on, and he was favoring his leg in that game.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
He managed to play the rest of the game and played pretty well the rest of the game, but I think
you could tell he wasn't right after that.
And you kind of said it right. He, who knew, like, he was listed day to day, but if he had to go, if it was in a pinch, he probably could have. But why
there
not?
was no reason to risk it.
So you put Stu in. Well,
Vegas took the game back, and what 54 seconds they scored twice.
Nicholas Roy got his 2nd. Riley Smith got his 2nd. And all of a sudden, we're tied going into the 2nd period. William Karlsson gets his 3rd for Vegas. So now Vegas has scored 3 goals in a row at the 17:05 mark of the 2nd period. So we go into the 3rd period with the Oilers being down 3-2. And I gave my luck just before this play happened. My TV froze. My Fire Stick froze. And I didn't see the McDavid goal from Bouchard and Draisaitl, but that tied the game with just a little over 3 minutes left in the game. So, all right, thinking.
I've got a phrase to start up our explanation of this next event.
Okay,
and it's one you're really familiar with because you've seen it probably 12,000 times. Quit pulling my leg.
Yeah, quit pulling my leg. Yeah, quit pulling my leg as it comes off. Well, and you're sitting there going, all right, it's going to overtime. It's going back and forth. A couple of good chances here and there, but nothing really to write home about. And puck goes in. Karlsson goes in to the Oilers zone late with about 11 seconds left or something like that. These 3 guys are on him in the corner. And I think it was kind of like everybody was thinking, okay, we'll just run the clock out. And Karlsson gets the puck to Riley Smith somehow. and nobody catches him. Nobody catches the other two defenders, Draisaitl, and I can't remember who else was out there, didn't catch Riley Smith, and Stu Skinner made the worst play a goaltender can make in that situation. Instead of just staying in your net and following Riley Smith coming in, Stu Skinner came out and he was pushing to the left or pushing to the right with his left skate, pushing to the left, and gave Riley Smith an opening. Now, this was with just a little over a second left. Still thinking it's going into overtime, right? Well, the puck goes, Riley Smith shoots the puck, but the way it's going, if nobody touches the puck, it's going to go through the crease and out the other side of the crease, and you're going to overtime. But Leon Draisaitl, thinking he was coming back and thinking that puck might go in the net, and there's still time for it to go in the net, he tried to stop the puck, but what it did, it deflected off of his stick with 0.4 seconds to go. Well, actually about 0.6 seconds to go. Deflected off of his stick and hit the little camera that's in the back of the net and came out. And the referees blew it off thinking it hit the crossbar. But with 0.4 seconds, Riley Smith scores his third after they reviewed it in Toronto. Riley Smith knew it went in. The Vegas bench.
Yeah, he knew it right away. He knew it right away that it did.
The Vegas bench knew that it went in. They reviewed it as they review every goal in Toronto at the Situation Room. And Riley Smith gets his third. Vegas wins the game with 0.4 seconds left. And if you're like we are in San Antonio, you know the history of that 0.4 seconds because the San Antonio Spurs of the NBA playing a playoff game against the Los Angeles Lakers here in San Antonio that I was at. And there was little time on the clock, 0.4 seconds. Derek Fisher gets the ball, throws it up, wins the game for the Spurs. Well, now
the Lakers
or for the Lakers. Now Riley Smith does the same thing with 0.4. So heartbreaking. You could see it in the fans' face. You know that Draisaitl felt bad, but this, and you asked me this, Carr. You asked me this before we got on. What did you think of Stu Skinner's play overall? And I said he had spurts of being okay, but 3 of the 4 goals that were let in, he should have stopped. It should have even, like the first 2 goals. I want to say the first 2 goals.
Oh yeah, because that Wah goal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know what he was doing on that one. He kind of thought he grabbed it like between his mask and his shoulder, and then he fell down, and the puck fell down, and Wah had an open net.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I was talking to you about this one, the Riley Smith backhand goal. As beautiful of a goal that was, because he maneuvered through the zone and through like 3 different guys. Stu literally had the 5-hole wide open, and Riley Smith could have slid like 15 pucks in there with how open it was.
Yeah. So, and then the Riley Smith goal, he's out. I think
he was swimming.
He was swimming, and he was in no man's land. If he would have, again, he could have, could have, should have this last few seconds of the game to death. If he would have just stayed in his crease,
they would have gone to OT.
It would have gone to OT, and we maybe even still watch. Vegas may have scored an OT, who knows? But we never got a chance to see that. So what happens now? Okay, we don't know the complete status of Calvin Pickard, but they've got until Monday night to see how he does. But in my opinion, even though Stu made some good saves and kept the Oilers in it when they were down 3-2 in the second period into the third, but this game should have ended 3-1 Edmonton with those 3 goals that he let in that he should not. It was, and then Darren Pang, who was a goaltender when he played in Chicago, he said Stu looks like he's just off balance all the time. The whole game he was off balance, and it's true. Those couple of goals he was off balance. So now
he looks like, even from last year, he just looks like he's just hoping that the puck hits him.
Yeah.
Like that he just somehow holds the puck. I mean, he I've said it before. I don't hate Stu, but I don't think he's that great of a goalie. He's
He's a
average. He's average.
he's a backup goaltender. So you gotta think that if Calvin Pickard is not 100%, or if maybe he's 95% to 100%, Calvin Pickard needs to go back between the pipes, because it seems like uh, the team plays with more confidence in front of Pick. Pick plays better,
Well,
and he's in position better. He's a better position goaltender, and
e-
Stu just doesn't have it. I'm
even
sorry.
moving forward. I mean, next year, and honestly, I don't think there's a reason that Stu needs to be there again next
No,
year. I really don't, unless the Oilers get some kind of um, like big league goalie that for whatever reason makes Calvin Pickard go somewhere else. Um, there's no reason
no.
for Stu to be there because he's proven, other than like, okay, he made a good run in the final. Don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
he he nearly gave that up against Vancouver like
Yeah.
quickly. Like he fell apart, and we've said it before. Once he misses, um, once he screws up once, it's like it's in his head and he can't get past it. How many times have you seen it as an Oiler fan? Like with the sequence in the first, Wasp scores, and then like less than a minute later they score again.
They score
Like you
again.
see that all the time.
And so and I last year in the playoffs when he was pulled in the Vancouver series, he came back and he was fantastic. Tonight, it was just like he never left the LA series. It was so. I like Stu as a person. He's an Edmonton boy. He was born and raised in Edmonton. He watched the Oilers play, but it is seriously time to move on from Stu Skinner after the season is done. No, well, we'll give him another shot, and no, you move on. You make some kind of a deal in the off season. Maybe you get a free agent, that a free agent goalie that's out there. Hopefully you can keep Pickard around.
Yeah, it's
But
just
yeah,
sometimes it just doesn't work. I mean,
yeah,
guys leave an organization, they go somewhere else, and they're able to find their feet. And you hope that that's what happens to him because he seems like he's a good teammate.
yeah,
But it's just as long as he's been an Oiler, he just has not been able to be clutch when you need him to be. Like
yeah.
he falls apart, and it's just you know it's just how it is. I think he's gotten used to relying on McDavid and Draisaitl scoring a lot of goals that he can kind of be average. But you can't be when you get to the playoffs. You have to be great.
Oh. And so, bottom line, Vegas played a great game, but they did what they had to do in Edmonton. They won Game 3 to get back in the series. The Oilers still lead the series 2-1 after the 4-3 win by the Golden Knights. So, as that group of guys in the dressing room, you got to have short term memory loss. You got to forget about it. Got to
Yeah,
forget how it ended. You just got to go out there with the same energy that you went out to start the game, and just push. And for the Oilers, you really don't want to go to Vegas tied. You'd rather be up 3-1. And for Vegas, they want to be, of course, they want to be tied going back home, but
hmm
still no home team has won a
nope,
game in
that's
this series
crazy.
yet. As an Oilers fan, you're hoping that changes on Monday night, but that'll be the late game on Monday. If I'm not mistaken, it's an 8:30 Central Time
Yeah,
after the Washington and Carolina game. So um, Oilers lead the series 2-1. We got another good games tomorrow for Sunday. Now this one, wow, they've got the Jets and the Stars starting at 3:30 in the afternoon. There must be some TNT because it's on
basketball.
TBS. There must be some TNT primetime games on Sunday because they got the Jets and the Stars in Dallas starting at 3:30 Central Time. That is odd for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't recall when there's only two games
Only
on
in the
Sunday.
first round. Only in the first round have you seen that on the weekends, obviously. But I haven't recalled that. Yeah,
I don't
on the second
recall
round.
in the
No.
second round. So it'll be the Jets and the Stars with the series tied at 1. After the Jets had their best game of the series and tied it, and then following that, which is kind of a turnaround because it's usually the other way around. The Maple Leafs are in South Florida to
You,
take on the
you
Panthers.
know what I find so odd about that now looking at this? So, okay, Dallas. and Winnipeg, they just played game 2 in Winnipeg, and they're traveling all the way to Dallas when the game ended at what, 10:30 last night, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, something like
Traveling all the way to Dallas, and then you have to play a game. That's crazy. They have to play at 3. Well, when I was looking here on the website, it had it listed like that, where Dallas and Winnipeg was first, and then Toronto, Florida after. I'm like, that's just backwards, I guess. And then I clicked it. I'm like, whoa, like 3:30. That's very weird. That
because
is very weird.
the Western games are always the later games, and when you get in, and the Eastern games are always the first games.
Well,
This is weird, starting at 3:30. It has to be a conflict on Turner Networks with
the NBA.
because that's the only thing I can think of. Because even the Leafs Panthers game will start at 6:30. That could have easily been a 6 o'clock or
And then 8:30 for Winnipeg, Dallas.
8:30 for Winnipeg and Dallas. But it is what it is. The Leafs going into South Florida have a 2-1 lead on the Panthers. That game will go. That would be the late game, which is weird. That big game will go at 6:30. So we'll be on the air after that game tomorrow between the Maple Leafs and the Panthers. And if you look at it, it's probably going to be about 9:30, between 9:30 and 10, probably about 9:30 that we'll be on the air with that one. And then just more great playoff hockey action. You can see where the series are right now. Out east, Carolina and leads Washington 2-1. Toronto leads Florida 2-1. Dallas and Winnipeg are tied at 1, and Edmonton leads Vegas now, with Vegas winning tonight 2-1. More great hockey tomorrow. You can catch the Best Boys 2025 Stanley Cup Playoff wrap-up show on our YouTube channel, Best Boys Center Ice Podcast YouTube. And you can also get it on Spreaker. And also we try to post the podcast up on TikTok as well. So again, great night of hockey, Carl.
Yep.
Even though if you're an Oilers fan or you're not, there was a fantastic game. You got to love it when the NHL is outshining the Big Brother NBA, because nobody well, there's basketball fans. I'm not saying I don't like basketball, but when it comes to the playoffs,
It doesn't compare.
It does not compare. And if you watch any of these games, I don't care, you take your pick, and you're going to see fantastic hockey. You're going to see passionate hockey. You're going to see players just going at each other.
Yeah.
Great scoring games like tonight where you score with 0.4 seconds left. It's just fantastic, and we're just so proud to be a part of the machine that brings it to you every night. So we're going to wrap things up. Carr, thank you very much again for everything you do with everything on the graphics of the intro. And in the meantime, and in between time, everybody have a great hockey night.
Bye,
Bye, son.